me is a venue for me to share this ancient wisdom backed by modern science with everyone.
And I want a good show, damn it. Ready for a good show?
Doing awesome, yeah. I'm excited to talk to you, Angie. Thank you for having me.
Yes!
Yeah.
I've always been doing big into archery, and my dad said, hey, you guys want to start an archery store?
That's how I was.
Andrew, yes, of course. Let's do this together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Show. I am your host, Andrew Maff, and today I am joined by the amazing Dr. Angela Zeng of Karviva Beverages. I got it. Doctor, how you doing? You ready for a good show?
Hey, Andrew. I'm doing great today. It's just beautiful outside. Makes me want to go out, take a walk, right? I mean, it's still pretty cold outside. We got some snow. But I really appreciate this opportunity just to share my 2 cents with your audience. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on the show. Your beautiful weather. You had mentioned before we started here, you're in St. Louis, correct?
Yes, I'm in St. Louis. I've been here for 30 plus years.
Oh, then you must love it. Tell me a little bit about, obviously, so that's where Karviva got started. Tell me a little bit about like your background and how you got started there in St. Louis.
Yeah. St. Louis is not the typical region you would find a product like, or a brand like Karviva. So
Very true.
A little bit about my background. The reason I moved to St. Louis from China, like I said, 30 plus years ago, was for my graduate school studies. So I came here for a PhD in pathology after I complete my undergraduate in biochemistry. But my family heritage, my culture and my family heritage has always been traditional Eastern medicine. So I have quite a few relatives, close relatives, my aunts, my uncle, well-recognized figures in the acupuncture field and women's health herbal medicine field. So since I was little, I kind of started to play around herbal remedies. I just loved them. For me, it was my toys, my hobby. Even now, now these days is a real business. But I went down the path of more like classic science field. It's both my parents, they're classic trained chemists, chemical engineers, which is, very sophisticated field. So I went down that path, biochemistry. And for me, it was never one field is glamorous, is all scientific driven. The other field is more like widow, which is practice. For me, actually, I have seen perfect harmony between the two. So for me, it's not about remedy, it's all time tested, but there's no clear-cut clinical study or evidence to support the efficacy. Actually, there are tons of clinical study research to help us understand why particular compounds are working. Doesn't matter whether they are anti-inflammatory or antibacterial or help us to prolong lifespan. For example, a compound in Ashtaba, one of our whole plant juice, just about a few years ago, right before pandemic, there's this publication by Prestige research group locate particular compounds in this amazing supergrain has protective effect chromosome and also stimulate this kind of microphage activity, which is kind of help our cells to clean out all those junks. So for me, I'm always fascinated about those things. So that actually leads to me kind of started Karviva brand. It's basically more than selling healthy wellness beverages, juices, juice cleansers, detox juice, for me is a venue for me to share this ancient wisdom backed by modern science with everyone.
Yeah. So One of the things I was thinking the whole time as you're giving me this background, I go, okay, I actually understand a pretty good amount of this. My whole family definitely is really getting more into that element, right? Like just, I don't even know how to explain it. But I also know that the average consumer is not the smartest person in the world and probably can't even spell half of the words that you just used. So what I'm always interested in is when you come up with something like this that just has this, it's more of like a clean element to it where you're, using more herbs and like actual things that you can find in nature as opposed to, what you're making in a lab. How do you actually market that and actually adjust the messaging so that the average consumer understands like what it's going to do for them?
Excellent question. That's the challenge for many scientist-based business person, including myself, to market their products, because classic trained scientists like to think like a scientist, researcher.
Yeah.
That's who we are. So sometimes for most of the inventors or product makers, right, we love to think our babies are the most beautiful baby in the world and suppose everyone would understand what we're talking about. I would say it's through this constant interaction with the real shoppers. So when I first started, the first 2 years, every weekend I would camp in different stores, doing sampling, offering free product samples. Well, if they like the sample, the shopper would go grab my product on the shelf. So of course, that's everyone knows sampling is one of the most effective tools you have to promote, to sell your product. But for me, it was for me to interact with real shoppers, my target shoppers, who, basically is in a real battleground. Compare my product with thousands, not, so many other bottles on the shelf, and then why they would choose my product, and to understand what do they care, what kind of terms they understand. So for me, it's about constant tweaking. And also one thing I really learned, which is really hard, I can give you an example. When I first attended Expo West, that was in 2018. I know nothing about this industry trade show, the most well-attended trade show, and I had a tiny little booth. So when I was preparing my trade show materials like brochures, flyers, pull-up binders, all those things, one of my friends mentioned to me, you got to have an eye-catching word. I'm like, I don't know about this eye-catching word, right? So finally I say, how about prebiotic fiber? Because as a scientist, I realized one of the key nutrition people kind of were ignoring is the fiber. I mean, fiber is not a glamorous way to say, but it's really prebiotic.
Yeah.
Prebiotic is so important because, I understand why, how it interacts with good bacteria in our guts and why it's so important. So I put that, my binder behind my booth. Guess what? My booth was jam-packed with people, especially folks from the R&D divisions of all the large companies.
Of course.
Prebiotic fiber, is this the next hot trend? That was the first time. It's like, oh, they are all looking for the next hot trend. And surprisingly, and to I was still very pleased, prebiotic fiber become the top trend now, right? I mean, it was not a new word for medical doctors or nutrition scientists, but it was definitely new for food and beverage folks. And they latched that on, and some people did a wonderful job, I think, in terms of doing the right product format and marketing and sell them. So, well, now most of the consumer now these days understand prebiotic is important for us. I think is keep listening to your target audience, finding the right words. For me, is like, even now these days, I feel like, well, this drink is more than boost immunity. But I have to settle down with one word because for the sake of the reason, if I drill down, oh my gosh, has this compound that helps you, this pathway inside your cells, that pathway in your gut. I mean, gosh, people will totally get lost. I understand, when I was a PhD student, some of the seminars, webinars, I refuse to go because it's boring. And they actually lured us, PhD students using donuts, free pizzas, junk food, of course.
Nice.
So you're right. And then the other thing I think for most of the e-commerce brand owners is obviously if you're selling Amazon, you have so many tools. You don't even have to pay. Amazon provides so much data. You can look at the key search terms, the top search terms. You can look at the keywords rankings. And then usually, that to me, that's basically understand what's going inside of your target shopper's mind when they are looking for a product, right? Like yours. And then it's up to the brand owner, whether you can develop the product matching that interests and you can highlight that interests with a good reason. Because I also see many products highlight some features on their labels, on their product listing. However, if you cannot deliver those features, it ends up just become one-time purchase, which is extremely cosly.
Is that kind of like keyword research also how you figure out going into like new product lines and expanding the product line? Because listening to you talk, it's amazing, and I can hear the health benefits behind it. But then you look at your product line, and you've got so many options between. I know you said an immunity, you have a detox, you have a sports drink, so you've got all of these different elements that all have these types of ingredients behind them. How did you kind of decipher which new products to get into? Was it from that keyword research side or something else?
Yeah, I would say it's both. For me, I emphasize more understanding real shoppers' needs. That's by basically we're still actually running demos, only in highly select stores. For us is to keep engaging with real shoppers because they only have a few minutes to spare with you. And that gives us tons of info. This is what exactly they need, because there are so many options there. And most shoppers now these days, they get confused. They got frustrated. And most of the products are still not offering the real solutions or outcomes they are looking for. The other thing is for me to develop new products. We all know for e-commerce owners, it's important to roll out new products, even though new product launching are very costly, especially on the retail side, is extremely costly. I think on e-commerce, you can still, have a better control over that. But in store, you have to go through this lengthy review process. And then sometimes, most retailers now demand good amount of slotting fee, which is a huge entry barrier for most of the brand owners. But on e-commerce is very different. So roll out new product is really for you to understand what are your target shoppers and my needs. To me, it's about that. Is they have, let's say, if they have this hydration drink from you, what else do they need? If they love your brand, what else do they want to buy from you? It's not about, of course you can, there are so many folks out there try to offer this service. Oh, I can help you to find a new product. I can even help you to source and have it make overseas and launch that. Amazon, or whatever platform you like. However, for me, that's more like where you can take that chance, but it's a hit or miss. Yeah. And there's so many things you don't know. Obviously, if you have good amount of money, extra savings, you can try it out. But on the other side, it's always better to understand, what's your expertise? What are you passionate with? Actually educating people about this ancient healing wisdom. That's what I'm truly passionate about. That's why I like to spend my time on different podcasts programs. Because to me, it's about educating folks to make the better choice for themselves. So for me, no brainer, I stick with the product line I have. And it's really hard for me to do. Most people would say, oh, how about you just do one kombucha line and then 20 different flavor. For me, that's not in line with my mission, my vision. You see what I'm saying? But for someone who just say, well, I just want to have a product in the market, see if I can make some money. Yes, nothing wrong with that. You can take that approach. I think it all depends on what you what what's the driving force behind
Mhm.
this expensive tests.
Yeah, I completely agree. We could do a whole show on why people pick certain product lines. Well, let's stick to yours for this one. So you obviously mentioned you sell on Amazon. We already know that you have your own website. A, what other sales channels are you on, if any? And then B, like what are your top ones right now?
Yeah, we just started Walmart marketplace. So for
Mhm.
me, it's still learning. I have to say, when I first started just this year, I got really frustrated because compared to, I mean,
Yeah.
I should not compare, but to be fair, Walmart's strength has always been in store. They're the
Mhm.
king of, cost saving items in store, and they're just doing everything so well.
Yeah.
However, online marketplace, you cannot. I feel like, to be fair, I should not compare them with Amazon because
Mhm.
Amazon has so many data, so many tools you can use. Walmart has basic stuff there you can use. However, whenever there's an issue, right? Like I got issue with setting up the deals. It's seriously, I mean, just always get stuck something. Then I have to file a case. It's not like with Amazon, you can request a phone call within a minute. With
Mhm.
Walmart, you have to be patient, wait for the reply.
Yeah.
So that's very different. But on the other side, I feel like for grocery items, that's still a channel we cannot miss. And then the other
Mhm.
thing we just started is TikTok. It's also very new for us.
Yeah.
TikTok, I have to say, for us, right now we just link TikTok to our Amazon store. So
Mhm.
because it's just easy for that fulfillment side. We're already spread too thin, so it's hard for us to, fulfill our own orders and then take care of the TikTok customer service. For us right now on the e-commerce side, Amazon is definitely our number one, but that's the place we feel like we get lots of data. We also sell product on our own website, but for us that's more like interfacing with our customers and then understanding, their shopping behaviors. But Amazon also give you tons of data. You can kind of get a good
Yeah.
picture if you're willing to drill deep into those data. And then retail channel is so important for us. So I have to say, with a consumer brand like in functional food and beverages now these days, it is a challenge that you have to
Yeah.
do, which is not easy.
That was actually perfect segue. I appreciate that because I was kind of going into what I wanted to ask you next. We've done a ton of work in the CPG space, and I know that the most common problem is, you had mentioned like being in stores and giving samples and things like that. You can try it, and then they can decide to make the purchase. Online, that's way harder, right? Like they can't taste it. They have to make the commitment to purchase it and then receive it. And because of shipping and, the justification around that, you've usually got to buy like a 6-pack or bigger or something like that. So you're kind of making a good sized commitment. How are you helping bridge that gap in terms of people's taste buds versus them actually making the purchase?
Yeah, that's outstanding question. And I heard actually other brand owners frequently raise this question. It is, I mean, I mean, I'm a consumer myself, right? I mean, I don't like to
Mm-hmm.
purchase food and drinks online for the exact reason you
Yeah.
said, because
Mm-hmm.
especially we do our own manufacturing. So my concern would be quality control and then shipping and handling storage by a third party, right? Because it's not like selling a textile products or toothpaste. It's totally different. So I think one thing is credibility building. The brand credibility building becomes so important. And then the only way to do that now these days, if you're only online, I feel like then is really working with content creators, influencers, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, For our own website selling, we actually offer free sample. If you purchase a case, we give you a free bottle. Sometimes we even throw in 2 free bottles for them to try. On the other side,
nice.
online, Amazon, you cannot do that. You cannot offer free samples. I mean, you can try to roll out smaller sample size like Tribe, but it's not like skincare product. So I would say if you can work with influencers, the more UGC contents you can create, then that alleviate that kind of, uncertainties or, trust issue. On the other side, if you can really have a true, authentic brand story that stand out, then we are pretty good at gaining PR. So that's one thing we're pretty good. So, like this year, we got more than dozens of coverage in our target region. So because the media outlets, they like to cover story that are unique, and obviously health and wellness is always a trending topics. But it's not like, wow, you just go to send editor request, they're going to cover you. It's better to engage a team to help you to gain some coverage, and authentic coverage is always better than paid coverage. Obviously, you don't want to do ads. You can run ads. I did run ads in magazine, but I feel like the impact is no comparison compared to authentic coverage. Yeah. So I think that's the only way you can overcome. It's almost like what makes your potential shoppers afraid of trying your product, right? What can you do to eliminate those fear factors for them?
Yeah. How much do you leverage like your background and your expertise? Like there's countless supplements and healthcare brands and all this different stuff that don't have doctors running the business. That's just some person that like, I think this works. So like how often do you leverage your own kind of like personal brand to benefit the business?
I nowadays I do that a lot because like I said, it's my mission to educate. I should not say educate, right? But it's basically shared wisdom I inherit. I have learned over years with people I'm serving, customers I'm serving. Yeah. So for me, that's what I love to do. So naturally that helps us to gain PR coverage. So that's almost like you have to enjoy doing this, sharing knowledge, and then people will notice you. If you're working with the right PR team, you will gain good coverage. And that I feel like that really helps, because with supplement brands, I feel like lots of people love, especially celebrities, they love to jump into skincare supplement brands. Mm-hmm. However, the issue is, like you said, it's credibility, especially supplements. I used to work in pharmaceutical industry. I can tell you more than 70% or 80% of this, just like protein powder, the quality is really low. I personally, looking at lab tests reports, I won't even touch them. And lots of, for example, mushroom powders, right? Mushroom becomes one of the top hot trend in the wellness field, right? Uh-huh. So, but I think the most recent data I've heard, just early this week, I was listening to some industry news. They were doing some testing. I think they were saying more than 90% of the products out there, when they test the powder in that capsules, whatever, has nothing to do with mushroom at all. It's just some powders there. Yeah. So for me, this kind of thing, obviously for me is that if I want to buy a mushroom powder, again, it's probably, I want to go to retail that I have good trust with, that they have good quality control process, maybe like, for example, Whole Foods store. Or if I have to buy it online, I have to look at whether they have many reviews, good reviews, and whether those reviews looks like true. But for me, fortunately, I do use medicinal mushroom, but I have my suppliers, and I never would buy a mushroom powder without seeing that real mushroom. I usually buy the real mushroom and then use them that way.
Make it yourself.
And ground them into powder. It is true. But that's the same thing with lots of supplements. So the vitamin C you're taking, magnesium you're taking, you don't know calcium you're taking. Calcium is a perfect example, even fish oil. Most of the fish oil, when I was in pharmaceutical, one of the product we had was branded prenatal vitamins for women, for, mom to be. And the company only source fish oil from a particular supplier in Northern Europe. And the reason is because that particular prenatal vitamin is not over the counter. It has to be approved and approved by the FDA and prescribed by the medical doctor. So that fish oil is the purity is very high. And you will see a huge difference versus the majority of the fish oil on the markets. Either they're tainted with mercury, because mercury pollution is a big thing in seafoods, all those things, or they're overcooked. So the problem with oil, like now there's a huge sentiment against seed oil, which I'm like, seed oil is supposed to be healthy if you if you're using the right one, right?
Yeah.
But it's that processing thing they are using. If they overcook this fish oil, it's not anti-inflammatory anymore. It becomes something that's toxic for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to say that credibility is important. So to be a brand, you either know what you are sourcing, how you source the product, how you source your ingredient, and you can make it super transparent to your potential shoppers, or you can show. I have seen because I follow lots of good Japanese brand and Taiwanese brand in the supplement field. Mm-hmm. They would list all the certificates, real test results to show you this is clean, no chemical contamination, all those things.
I wish we would adopt more of that. Dr. Angela, thank you so much for being on the show. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you're super busy. I'd love to give you the opportunity, let everyone know where they can find out more about you and, of course, more about Karviva.
Thank you. Yeah, they can visit our website, Karviva.com. So it's KARV as victory, VIVA.com. And anytime you guys have questions about holistic medicine, feel free to reach out to me.
Love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. Of course, everyone who tuned in, thank you as well. Please make sure you do the usual thing, rate, review, subscribe, or whatever on whichever podcast platform you prefer, or head over to the ecommshow.com. But as usual, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ecomm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The Ecomm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the Ecomm Show.